Let me tell you what a narcissist is. Let me tell you what a toxic person is. These are worlds within worlds within worlds, and we're not even contemplating how many of these concepts violate principles of the Quran. The study of outside of our deen, lately we started calling it religious education, secular education. We separated these two, right? There's religious education and there's secular education. This is a new definition. This did not exist in our religion. In fact, our religion told us, "Siru fil ard, fanzuru kayfa bada al-khalq." Go, travel in the world. Find out, figure out, contemplate, how did creation begin? How did they learn about the fossils? Learn about the ruins. Find these skeletal structures. Go, find out how creation began. Fanzuru kayfa bada al-khalq. This is Allah Azza wa Jal telling the believer not to close their eyes and keep the outside world outside because it will ruin your faith. Other religions, I don't have to name any of them, but other religions, they would basically tell people, don't learn anything from the outside. It will corrupt your faith. It will make you start having doubts. If you want to preserve your faith, stay within this protected circle. Only listen to these people, and if you listen to them, your iman will be protected. The devil will not get to you. But the Quran came and it acknowledged that Allah gave the human being such a more powerful tool than anything else, the human mind, the human heart, the soul. And it's supposed to arrive at the truth by engaging with exploration. And the more you explore, not you become more doubtful, the more you explore, the more convinced you become. It's the opposite. We were supposed to be a people of exploration. That's what we were supposed to be. But there's a dark side to exploration. Science can be a spiritual experience. It can be. I've met people that have studied philosophy and history, and that became a spiritual experience that led them back to Islam. It can be. But science, let's take science for an example. Science by itself is blind. Science has no conscience. Science is not about good or evil. It's just observation. When somebody is studying chemistry, there are not salih chemicals and, fasid chemicals. There's just chemicals. When somebody's studying physics, it's just physical formulae. It's just quantum mechanics. It's just, these are just phenomena. You're observing reality. But people have a conscience. So let's remove God and remove spirituality and remove guidance from the equation and just look at science for a moment. If somebody looks at science without any tadabbur, not looking at it as an ayah that leads to something bigger, if you look at it that way, then it's very easy to say that we can use science for very evil purposes too. It's the same science that creates nuclear weapons. It's the same science that creates chemical weapons. It's the same science that creates addictive drugs that thousands of people are addicted to around the world, isn't it? It's also a product of science. It's the same science that creates weapons that kill people. It's the same science that creates, carcinogens. It's the same science that people use to manufacture synthetic food that they know can cause all kinds of health issues, but it makes them a lot of money. It's scientists that are doing a lot of scientific study to produce what's being produced. And science is all around us. The Quran is simply telling us something. It's telling us that when you look at if you study and explore science, but you are seeking purpose, then you will find it. But if you remove purpose from the equation, then you can turn that into anything. And in fact, that's even true of the Quran. Wild enough. If somebody comes to the Quran and they are not seeking purpose, they're just curious, but they're not seeking purpose, they can very well find misguidance from this book. Allah Himself says, يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ. Even the Quran, you cannot get guidance from it if you don't come with the right mindset. I know very, very well-educated professors, PhDs in the study of the Quran that are non-Muslim. I know them. They've been studying the Quran for 25, 30 years. They know more Quran than most Muslims. They know more Arabic and more classical tafsir than most Muslims, but they're not Muslim. They'll go to a conference, they'll discuss a surah for 5 hours and discuss every ayah and discuss the mufassirun, and then their lunch break, they're going to go have a champagne. That's normal for them. because they don't come to the Quran for guidance. The same way, you don't have to study the science or study science for purpose. The same way, that even applies to the word of Allah.